Mixties presents the Popcast. Hey, my name is Brian, that is Shane, and this is the Popcast. And today, we're talking about the very first episode of the Orville. We didn't think we'd be covering this, but there's something we need to discuss. Our relationship with critics and how this show went. Shane, I know you got a lot to say, bro.
Well, I got to tell you, I was not expecting this series. It seemed like it kind of popped out of nowhere. There's been trouble with the Star Trek universe recently, and there's no date coming out for the next movie. The new series that's getting ready to come out has already come out to very poor reviews, and so it feels like there's room for something like this. So after watching the Orville, there's something there. That's what I want to say right now. It's not perfect. If you're a fan of Galaxy Quest, if you're a fan of Star Trek, there's something here. And I know we're going to talk about it as we go forward, but overall, I would say that the critics are pressing too heavy to push this thing out of the way too quickly. So we're gonna get you. We're gonna tell you right now. Happy Arbor Day, critics. That's
Happy Arbor Day.
That's right. Here's some wood.
Well, let's just start off the show before we get into that, real quick. It's gonna be a quick show. We need to bring up the 400 sub thing. Remember, we're getting closer to 400 subs. We're doing our unboxing video. We're doing our boxing video this week for the winners of the 200 sub challenge, and that's gonna be great. Don't forget, when we get to 400 subs, we're doing another super secret spectacular get milestone giveaway. So
it's gonna be cool.
Just remember that. On to the Orville, my friends. I want to start with Marina Sirtis. She played Deanna Troi on the Next Generation. She saw the show last night and immediately said she loved it. Hashtag the Orville. I'm sure she's gunning for a guest appearance, as well as other Star Trek actors like Michael Dorn, Patrick Stewart, Frederick Spiner. They're all looking to make guest appearance on the show. So if the show actually takes off, it can be a real fun Star Trek experience without the Star Trek name on it, and that would be nice.
Well, and that's what you're talking about. You said fun experience, and that's the first thing we should come out to say is that fun. There's not a lot of TV. I think you mentioned it earlier when we were talking about it. There's not a lot of fun TV out there right now. And when you go back and look at TV show or movies like Galaxy Quest, that they were able to take and put fun into a techie sci-fi experience, and they realize there's a hole in the marketplace for this. We've had, every Star Trek that we've had has been very serious. This is not Star Trek, by the way. This is not Star Trek.
It's not.
And I don't think you should be fooled into thinking that it's Star Trek. If you're coming here to get the Star Trek feel, but a lighter version of it, a more maybe what people are really thinking when they're going about their workday in out in outer space. So,
right. You're completely right. It's not Star Trek, but it had that feel of Star Trek. And it really when I'm watching it, it reminding me of watching, Farpoint, the first Next Generation episode, the Galaxy Quest, and going to conventions and the Star Trek experience in Vegas. And I had that feeling, even though I know Star Trek's name wasn't on it. So I enjoyed it. I gotta say, just like you, I see there's problems. But this is the first episode. I feel like people are going to grow up and going to do a little more. And if it goes right, we should start seeing a little cult classic appearing in the same vein of Firefly or Galaxy Quest.
Well, it's funny. This is the first episode. I mean, this is the pilot for the TV show. Pilots don't have a history of coming in and hitting a home run the first time. Very few pilots are amazing shows. Right. The pilot comes in and it sets the stage and you're like, okay, it's interesting enough for me to move on.
Yeah.
And I think adding that little bit of a twist into the Orville, I guess this is spoilers. If you haven't seen the show yet, you're going to want to go back and watch that on Hulu, or if you DVR'd it. But, at the end of this episode, it actually had a nice little twist, which kind of changed my perspective about Seth MacFarlane's character and where we were going to be going forward. And it actually made it a little more interesting for me, because now we've got a dirty little secret to start out the show with. And that is going to make for a little bit of intrigue. So hang on, guys. Just hang on.
Yeah.
We need a few more episodes.
Seth MacFarlane is playing Ed, Captain Ed. Basically, he was a top of his class, up and coming Starfleet. I mean, I'm sorry, Space
Starfleet.
Fleet.
Look, I already went there with the Starfleet, bro.
I didn't mean to. Whatever
Yeah,
their federation is, their Space Fleet.
The Union.
The Union. Thank you. And his wife cheated on him with a blue alien that looked a whole lot like Rob Lowe, and it was Rob Lowe.
It was Rob Lowe.
Rob Lowe.
Rob Lowe, man, what's up?
In full blue makeup, and I gotta say, that opening scene with the blue shooting out of his face, that did make me laugh.
Because you're crapping your pants, right? The guy's crapping his pants, right? Except he just shot blue all over his face.
Right. Yeah, he pissed himself. He was so scared or whatever. And
right.
It was
blue. This is a crude. By the way, people should be aware. This is a crude humor, a little bit of a crude humor show. It's an adult show for sure.
Right.
So
it's not as bad though as other Seth MacFarlane shows. It's not Family Guy in space, and I gotta say, I'm glad it's not Family Guy in space. Family Guy
I'm glad too.
Very subjective humor. This is a little more general, and that's good. And then I guess he has a rough year, and it fast forwards a year, and he's given his own command, and then hijinks ensue. So you're getting this guy who's being given a captainship after he's had a really traumatic life experience, and you don't know why until the very end, and he doesn't seem fully prepared for this because while he's going through this brand new captainship, he's being forced to deal with a bunch of personal issues and stuff that's happening all at the same time very quickly, and it makes for an interesting show. They have the Worf-like character and
see, and there's the comparisons. Before we go to the comparisons, we got to note that also, so his ex-wife now ends up coming back as his first officer, which causes the tension, and and I would like to go through and kind of break down the characters and talk about it. But the reason why I think that this show is really going to work right now, I don't know if this show works a few years back, because right now we're desperate for something sci-fi. I mean, we're just desperate for it right now. So I'm not saying the show is bad.
Sci-fi.
We're not even getting serious sci-fi.
Well, I'm not even saying like funny. I'm saying like not. There is some serious sci-fi like on the Sci-Fi Channel and some cable channels.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about specifically Star Trek. Okay, it's been a long time since we've had anything good Star Trek, or we're hungry right now.
Yeah, that even resembles Star Trek.
Right, and then as soon as we started hearing how bad the new Star Trek series is going to be, it's like so this show is probably getting a little more love right out the gate than it might ordinarily, just because of that reason.
Yeah.
A little bit, Galaxy Quest, and I need to revisit Galaxy Quest because that's a big reason why this show is actually being made. Seth MacFarlane saw the success of Galaxy Quest. They knew there was going to be a Galaxy Quest series made. It fell through. There's a opening for it, and he's like, well, I do humor. This is what I can do. So he brought it. He saw the opening. He brought it. But the problem is, and I'm going to go back. The problem with Galaxy Quest is you have a captain and a crew that pretended to be a captain and a crew, and a lot of the humor was around the fact that these people had no idea what they were doing. They were pretending to do what they were doing. So they need to be careful as they move forward on the show, not to go too Galaxy Quest far into it, because there needs to be that they're technical. They actually should know what they're doing.
Yeah, because they need to be competent in their jobs, right?
There was a little bit of dumbing down that happened in this first episode where you need your captain to be charismatic and commanding. Captain Kirk wasn't the most intelligent of all people. He was surrounded by good people. And so, Seth MacFarlane can do the same thing. He doesn't have to be the guy. He doesn't have to be Jean-Luc Picard, right? Who was everything.
I agree. Speaking of which, though, some of that scene where they're fighting together to get out of the science building,
right?
Felt like they were way more competent than most of the actual Star Trek scenes. I've seen them do the same thing.
Yeah, the Krill. This funny. The Krill couldn't hit one of I think they hit Seth MacFarlane on one, kind of grazed him, but
Right.
they were like ping, 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 pinging them all off. It was funny. It was
I
all
remember
right.
I'm thinking like I've seen Star Trek episodes where they're in firefights and like firefights, and there's like red shirts falling all over the place.
Yeah, no, well, they couldn't lose anybody here. They had too many. They didn't bring any red shirts down with them, So their core.
Can I talk about a couple moments that I liked the most?
Yeah.
What do you want to go with breakdown?
Whatever you want to talk about. Let's talk about it.
Okay, well, I loved the Scott Grimes character.
Oh, he was my favorite too.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Absolutely.
Hands down, love him.
I love that he made a program where he's fighting Justin the Orc. The Orc's name is Justin.
The ogre.
I'm sorry, but
Orc?
Yeah, he was an ogre orc. What a great character that is. And like, hey, there's a ladybug. Oh, neat.
Yeah, dude, cool, totally oblivious.
Yeah.
His character, the Scott Grimes character, is completely oblivious of his antisocial behavior, of his antisocial nature.
Yeah.
He's just totally oblivious of the terrible thing that he's doing or saying. And I love that about that character.
Yeah.
I really like him as an actor too.
I hope Justin the Orc becomes a regular on the show, like the way Morn is in DS9, or
Well, didn't you love how that was basically them showing us the holodeck?
Right. Yeah, that was a really cool. Yeah, and then he's like, "You win."
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was a little bit different. It was a little bit, but it was basically the holodeck, and. Yeah, I absolutely love that scene. I love how they led with that, and I like how the Scott Grimes character's drinking a beer, right?
Are you drinking a beer right now? It's 9 a.m.
It's 9 a.m. in the morning.
Well, I'm nervous. No, I gotta say, when he's like, I made this orc to fight with because he has a great personality too, right, Justin? He goes, "Oh, hey, nice to meet you. Always nice to meet a friend."
Right.
I really
that was a great scene.
Yeah, it was a great scene. I gotta say, I want to see more of the Blob character. We only saw a tiny little bit of that. I know it's a little slapstick when he ran into the Blob coming out the hallway. Norm Macdonald plays the voice.
Yeah, Norm Macdonald has one of those voices where you can just tell, hey, I'm Norm Macdonald. You can just kind of tell it's him. And, it's kind of weird having these little cameos. You can tell these are friends of Seth MacFarlane. I mean, even looking at Scott Grimes, I mean, he's done American Dad and he's also done Family Guy. He's friends with Seth MacFarlane. So, he's obviously brought his close crew in here. So he has an opportunity to really shape this the way he wants to shape it.
Well, good news. Seth MacFarlane has a lot of friends in Hollywood.
Yeah.
A lot of people like MacFarlane. Even if they haven't worked with him, they like him a lot. He's one of those guys that gets along with everybody. So it's not going to be hard getting people on the show we want to see on the show. That's for sure.
That's cool. Now he just needs to grow a little bit into his character.
I agree.
He needs to be a little more serious. He needs to be more of the straight man as he moves forward.
Yeah, he reminds me of like William Shatner's character from Boston Legal instead of William Shatner's character from Star Trek.
Right.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Actually.
He needs to have a little more of the Captain Kirk instead of the Denny Crane, for sure. I gotta say though, what I didn't quite understand, but maybe there's a point to it, is why they didn't have transporters or replicators in that. They're way ahead of us in the future. They're way ahead of Deep Space, Star Trek Next Generation. Either they're going to introduce those technologies to us later on, or they're purposely leaving them out so that they can't be used as easy plot devices, right?
Maybe. I think it's because it's a pilot, and I don't think they wanted to spend a lot of money on CG or try to do too much complicated stuff. I noticed when he was walking up the stairs after talking to the Admiral, and then he went onto the bridge, and I'm like, whoa, okay, I didn't see that. Seemed a little weird. But I think that you didn't see a lot of CG and a lot of things like that. And so, maybe there isn't a lot of that. Maybe there's a future, maybe we don't need a transporter.
Sure.
Maybe they don't want to, I did love, I mean, they had some great science stuff. They had basically the ship that's kind of that round thing that looks like it jumps them in space. I like that idea as opposed to necessarily the ship itself going really fast. They have this, and then they sent out a shuttlecraft to pick up the first officer from this transporter, the ship. So that was kind of a cool, different type of technology.
Yeah, and I like when he said evasive maneuvers. He actually took evasive maneuvers.
That's some maneuverability on that ship, huh?
That was interesting, though. It's like
really
in regular Star Trek when they're like evasive maneuvers, Mr. Data. It's usually like. And one guy falls out of his chair. It's like,
hey, can you do that one more time?
Evasive maneuvers, Mr. Data.
Wait. I got my soda up on the bridge. Yeah, well, listen, that's always been a Star Trek thing, man.
I know, but they showed it, man. Right? They showed the evasive maneuvers, dude.
You notice how Seth MacFarlane had seatbelts in this one? That was kind of cool.
Oh yeah, but yeah,
he's like seatbelts.
Yeah, I love that they showed the seatbelts because I'm like, I really wish that Star Trek had seatbelts.
They never had seatbelts, bro. They never had seatbelts.
That's one of those things though. When you watch Star Trek, you're like, I love Star Trek, but like you feel like, okay, it's in the 25th or 24th century. Like, when did we forget seatbelts exist? Because people are just flying out of their chairs.
I'm sorry, the original series had to be that way, no seatbelts. It just had to be. It was the way it was set up. It would have been weird with seatbelts. And then, the next generation wasn't going to change that. So, it just kind of kept on going.
I love the way MacFarlane brought attention to it, though. When the guy, when the villain was like, whatever, he's like, well, we have seatbelts. So.
Yeah, he's like, we have something they don't have. Seatbelts. Yeah, that was fantastic. That was
a little pick to Star Trek.
That was great. Absolutely great.
Yeah, so
they killed somebody on the show, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, they did.
I wasn't sure because it's kind of a comedy. It's like serious light. I wouldn't say comedy. It's like they're so close to being able to get the comedic value of Star Wars: A New Hope. If you go back and you look at the Han Solo banter with Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, they could almost go there, and I kind of hope they go there. And they peel back away from the crude humor, the dog licking its nuts, behind the guy.
Although in the background, dude, that was pretty funny.
It was funny.
It wasn't in the foreground. You have to really look for it. And the guy was just like eternally licking his
It's the first thing I saw when the screen came up. I'm sorry. I'm just like Scott Grimes' character. It's the first thing I saw. Yeah. I'm like, that dog back there is just going to town.
They shouldn't have. Well, if they didn't call attention to it, then it would have been one of those subtle jokes that you see in the background, and that's okay.
Which would have been better. I would have been better with it. They didn't need to call attention to it. Everybody's. Although
Scott Grimes being like, did anybody else see that?
Did you see that dog back there? And that's what his character, I guess, would do. I want to see it grow. I want to see some. So that's why I say the critics are wrong by just hammering this thing right out the gate.
Yeah, 100%.
We need to see a few more episodes. We kind of need to see where they go. He basically owes his captainship to his ex-wife at this point.
Who did it because she felt bad for him, right?
Yeah, I mean, she screwed him up, or I guess.
Yeah, she ruined his life or whatever.
Yeah, so now she's trying to fix it, but I don't think he's gonna like finding out that that's the case.
Well, hopefully he doesn't find out. He finds out after they've already, become friends again.
And I would like him not to become friends with her too quickly. You need to pull this along a little further. There needs to be this. Listen, you can't get over that fast.
No, he needs to drag it out. He needs to be constantly dragging out. There needs to be constant picks, Yeah,
there needs to be. I mean, it was a little. You know what a really great part of the show was? When they're talking to the enemy guy across the way, the Krill, which, by the way, the Krill remind me of a race of characters off of Deep Space Nine. And I want to say it's really close. Like one of the characters' names was Kroll. They were blue. I can't remember off the top of my head. I should have researched it before we came out and did it. I will find it for you before we leave. But their makeup and that character almost reminds me exactly of the Hunters from Deep Space Nine.
Oh, the Hunters. That's right. Yeah, they were in Voyager too.
Voyager. I'm sorry. It wasn't Deep Space Nine. It's Voyager. Yeah, they definitely remind me of that. And at first, when I first saw them, I'm like, oh, wow, is there some sort of connection here? But they're not. There is some differences. They're not blue, obviously, but it was close, very close. But that whole scene where he's like, hey, can you move to the left a couple? Right? And then basically she gets him to agree with her about, would you be surprised if your wife? And so this whole banter thing back and forth. He's like, oh, no, marriage takes work. That was actually really good. And that was a great part of the show.
When
and
I
how
first
it
thought,
liked.
when I first saw that, I'm like, they're gonna be people that don't like this scene, but they're nuts because this scene is so perfect. It's like they're trying to buy time. So in order to the way they're buying time is is by distract this guy with their own argument. And the way when he goes, can I get you like 2 steps to the left? You need to fill out more, Fred.
You can tell he's irritated, but he does it, and it's like, okay.
Like, oh.
Right? He wants the device.
That reminded me of that guy, that Cody guy who used to comment on our videos a lot. Can you like get back in the frame, Brian?
Right, exactly. It also reminded me of Galaxy Quest when when Tim Allen's having his first back and forth with the bad guy, and he's like, oh, this is just a setup, so he's just basically, messing with him. It was interesting. I like that scene, and that's where it works for me. Where it doesn't work for me is when Seth MacFarlane kind of takes the limelight a little bit as the funny guy. I don't want him to do that. I know that's going to be hard for him. I mean, it's his shtick.
Yeah.
So
he needs
it's
to be
going
the
to be
audience.
tough.
He really needs to be the audience. He needs to be Richard Dean Anderson,
Yes.
Captain Kirk, Han Solo. He needs to be the every guy with some skills, surrounded by a bunch of really great individuals, and he's reacting to them. That's what he needs to be.
He needs to be the anchor. He needs to be
Richard Dean Anderson. He needs to be the guy from Stargate. Captain Jack O'Neill. If he's that guy, boom, problem solved.
Yeah, well, Jack, I guess he had his moments, a couple of crack jokes. It's going to be tough for Seth. He's used to being funny. He likes to have the punchlines. So it's going to be interesting to see how they.
Seth, go back and watch Richard Dean Anderson in Stargate. He had funny lines, but he also anchored the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
I see a lot of potential in this show. I feel like it's just gonna get better. And if it does get renewed for a second season, they're gonna be able to correct a lot of mistakes that they're probably gonna see happen this first season. And I'm happy to see it. So, one last thing. I'm really happy about that science planet. How all those different races were there in the very first episode.
Yeah, that was good. I agree.
Yeah, they introduced the scientist. First, you thought it was just a creature swimming around, and it's like, oh no, that's Doctor whatever,
And that's very Star Trek. That is very Star Trek.
Very Star
I like
Trek,
that.
Yeah.
No, they introduced a lot of characters. They made you feel like it felt. I mean, that's the moment when it really started to feel Trekky. And I like that they're coming down. They've got this new piece of technology. I didn't like the way Seth MacFarlane and Adrian Palicki, his first officer, I didn't like the way that they were kind of crapping on what the scientist was saying, almost like
banana ray thing, right? Yeah, I didn't like the anti-banana ray.
It made it sound like they weren't smart enough to be able to get the concept of it. And I just want to reiterate that I don't want the characters to be dumb. I don't want scrubs in space. Yeah. And that's,
by the way, everybody, Shane hates scrubs.
So let me just be clear.
Anytime a show has that sitcom feel, he says it's like Scrubs.
It's not that. I don't want to. I said Scrubs has its place. So I don't want Scrubs in space. That's all I'm saying. No, I don't hate Scrubs. There had some funny stuff in Scrubs.
It's like Galaxy Quest meets The Office.
Yeah, except it's not Galaxy. That's the problem with this. If they had a bunch of people who didn't know what the heck they were doing, it could be funny.
So it's like Star Trek meets The Office.
There you go. I like that. Yeah. I'll take that.
I agree with you, though. It needs to be less Office and more. There needs to be some Office in there, though. And then we need to have some fun here. A little bit.
Yeah, no. We got to have fun. Let's keep it light.
To be honest, I'm not trying to go back to Stargate SG-1 again, but Richard D. Anderson always made fun of the smart people in the room because he was the guy that felt lower because he wasn't the smart guy in the room. So he would constantly make fun of the scientist. Always picking at him and giving him a hard time because he didn't understand.
And that was okay, right? But he had a quality.
That's right, yeah.
Richard Dean Anderson was a strong leader, and so therefore he didn't have to be the smartest guy in the room. Captain Kirk, not the smartest guy in the room, strong leader, was decisive, knew exactly what to do in every moment. And if Seth can pull that off while keeping it, I want to call it. What do you want to call it? We should call it like drama light. Is that what you want to? Drama
D.
Fun. whatever you want to call it. I don't know. It just needs to be a little different. I don't want it to be serious.
Dramatic.
It was great because it's light.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we have to figure out how to. They have to figure out how to maneuver through this and keep it interesting. They need to get away from Earth a little bit more, I think.
Yeah.
Too. You know, having access to the Admiral. What was it? Admiral Halsey. Which, by the way, Admiral Halsey is a famous admiral's name in history. Victor Garber's played the Admiral who basically sets all this up, and he's actually having a great run right now. He was on The Flash, and of course now he's on that other show, that spinoff of The Flash. What was it called again?
Legends of Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow. And he's doing great. He's a fantastic actor, so I love that he's in the show. But I don't need to see a whole bunch of him coming up forward. He's already played his part. He's set up the scene. Now he can kind of fade off into the woodwork, as far as I'm concerned. So
yeah, and he's going to have to. Let me explain why. He is a series regular. He's an actual cast member on Legends.
Right.
And that show is booting up again. There's no way he can continue being regular on 2 shows.
No, he might pop in every once in a while, but I have a feeling they're going to switch off to somebody else. Can we talk about some of the characters? Because we haven't talked about some of the other ones. And
let's
kind of
start
what their
with
purpose
racist
is.
Data.
Okay, so which I got to tell you, they said that, but then he didn't really do anything racist.
Not yet.
So,
not yet.
So what is I supposed to? I was waiting for it. Every time he would talk, I'm like, I'm waiting for something.
Well, I was waiting for stuff from all the characters, but this is the pilot episode, so they're setting a lot of things up.
Yeah, a little bit. I didn't get nothing.
When he talked about like the only peeing once a year thing with the Klingon,
Oh, Peter Macon. He plays Bortus.
Yeah, the Bortus character.
The Klingon, so you heard it call.
See, it's hard not to. I thought they were gonna.
They write you Worf.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna pay that off when he was like, "No, everything's fine." I thought he was gonna be like, "Everything's fine, just we're down here peeing once a year" or something like that, right? To sort of tip him off.
He is a straight serious character. That character is
right,
and I like that. You gonna have to have a couple of people who just it's all business,
right?
You know, and I'm okay with that, and I'm okay with there being some Star Trek alikes in here. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with there being a Data, and I'm okay with there being a Worf. I'm okay with there being a security officer that's basically Superwoman.
I loosened it for you. All right, well, let's go.
Let's just throw her
right.
in front.
Yeah, let's go left to right and go. Let's start with racist Data. Okay, it's a robot android from another.
Is it a robot?
He said it was some kind of like synthetic life form from another planet. So they didn't make it. This is a synthetic race that feels like they are superior than all the organic races. Which what makes them racist is not your skin color is what he has a problem with. It's the fact that you're organic.
So he's a Borg.
He's like a Borg, yeah. He's just like a Data, really. You know,
like a Borg Data kind of combination.
Yeah, well, the Borg are like a hive mind, so like he's not a hive mind. So yes, I guess.
But the Borg is they feel like they're superior to everybody.
Right. So he does, and I guess he's here on like a trade-off thing where they bring an officer to our thing. The guys let them get to know us. So
well, what's cool is they didn't go into this, but they alluded to the fact that he was interested in doing it, whereas most of his race is not.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the potential to have some interesting elements to that character because he's actually interested in learning about humanity, whereas most everybody else doesn't care. So there could be some cool stuff there.
Right. Which
Data-esque.
Yeah, very Data-esque. And then let's talk about Bortus, the Klingon-esque type.
I like this character.
I like this character too. His entire race is nothing but male, and they pee once a year. That's what we've learned so far.
Well, so yes, and also he can handle the humor. This actor's actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And when he said, Can I please Scott Grimes is like, "Can I please wear shorts since I got us out of this?" And he's like, "I already told you no." So not only is he asked, but he's asked twice, right? And the way he flipped that back at him was actually perfect.
Right.
And don't change whatever that character's doing. I love that character. Let him keep being straight like that. It's perfect.
That character's really great. I can't wait to learn more about the race. How do they procreate? Like, how does that work? And
I don't know.
And I think
it's
as
a little
we go,
weird that it weirds me out.
Just like with Star Trek, we got into so many Klingon stuff because people wanted to know more about the Klingon on the bridge,
Yeah.
right? So hopefully we'll get more out of that. And then what's the helmsman name? The African American guy. What's his name?
Oh, Chad Coleman.
Chad Coleman. So the way he introduced himself,
He plays Clyden.
Clyden. The way Clyden introduced himself to Scott Grimes, and they're like, "Well, yeah, I'm basically an asshole." I'm going, "Oh yeah, so am I. We're gonna get along great."
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, all right, I like that." Like these guys are partners. Like they're supposed to be partners. They're not, one guy is not above the other. Like they're partners on the helm. So they might have a really cool friendship there, right?
You know what? I got the name wrong. Apologize. It's Jay Lee is his name.
Sorry, Jay Lee.
Yeah, he was also, guess what? Cleveland Show, Family Guy. So he's a Seth MacFarlane guy.
So I think that there's a relationship there we're gonna be able to get to know. Like just like with Data and Geordi, just like with Sulu and Chekhov.
Okay, and the guess what? Just like the kid who grew up on Galaxy Quest, who's the kid on the show,
right?
The African American character. He's also the helmsman. So there's that thrusting in there of combining that show as well. So,
and I've always, even being a Trekkie, I've always wanted to see more of that relationship, and we never really got much. They're always, in 50 years of Star Trek, that relationship is always a side story to everything else going on. You never really see very much about the relationship of the helmsmen and what they do together.
Well, you did. You had Sulu and Chekhov. You could see a little bit of their camaraderie,
but not much. They don't really get into it, right? Like you see the camaraderie. You see there's a relationship that needs to be explored. You get a little bit with Geordi and Data, but by the time you get Geordi and Data, Geordi's down in the engine room.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's always the first officer and the captain, and
right.
Maybe they'll throw in the doctor or something.
Right. So hopefully get some of that. Speaking of the doctor, we already talked about Scott Grimes. We both love him. The doctor is the wife or girlfriend of the Captain Sisko from DS9, right?
So yeah, Penny Johnson-Gerald plays Dr. Clara Finn, and she was actually on Deep Space Nine as the girlfriend of Sisko, of Captain Sisko. She played Cassie, and that was from 1990. Let's see, I think it was 1995 to 1999. Mm-hmm. So she's got some Trek experience.
Yeah.
So bringing her onto the show. Most recently she's been in a few different things. She was actually in 24, and so she's actually got some acting chops. That's great.
What matters most to me though is that she's a Star Trek alum.
Yeah, I love that, and I think she had a really great scene with the captain where she comes in and she handled his kind of crude. About his balls, I guess. She goes, "Well, I'm your doctor, so if there's a problem with your balls, I will know it."
And she handled
and I thought that was handled well,
professionally, right? Yeah, there was no she didn't throw humor back at him, which was great.
Which is cool, and she's really the only character who had any sort of military bearing. And I don't know what the 2400s are going to look like as far as the military, but in a typical military show, there is some military bearing that occurs, and this show has very little. They, referring to each other with by their ranks, and I think that'll have to grow into a respect sort of situation too. I mean, he's basically best friends with the helmsman, and that's tough for a captain to pull off. So we'll have to see where they go from a military standpoint, or the Union, and see how that goes too.
So you were on a military ship when you were in the Navy.
Yes.
There was a comment on Reddit where the guy was like, "Listen, I just watched the show, and I did 3 tours on a submarine. I've spent literally years now on a submarine, and the longer you get into a mission, the more it becomes where you're down there with a bunch of friends trying to get your job done, and it had that same feel for him." And I couldn't relate because I was in the Army. But
if you're in a submarine situation, it's probably a lot more. There are a lot more junior folks than there are senior staff on a submarine. Kind of like you saw here, there were very few senior officers. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're the Navy. He's talking about the Navy is set up where there's a lot of middle of the road leadership. So we call them chief petty officers, and basically they stand in as officers. For a lot of the junior people, because there are not a lot of officers. So you do, when you get a lot of junior people together and you get a lot of young, a lot of people working together, then it does become, there's a loosening of that. But when senior officers are working together, there's definitely, a respect factor there.
Right.
You have to have that chain of command in order to be people to be able to follow rules. I'm not saying the show needs it. It's a little more light, so maybe it's not critical. All I'm saying is that I noticed it didn't really exist. So it would, one of the things that people tend to love about these shows is that there is a pecking order, that there is a chain of command. I think they should implement that to some degree to show where the respect is, where it isn't, use that as to tell how people feel about each other. You can use that. So
yeah, no, I agree with you. I was mentioning that Reddit comment because on the actual r/Star Trek, there's a post that someone put up, the mods put up, about last night's show, and I gotta say, about 99% of the thousands of comments hundreds of comments are really positive.
Yeah.
People like us, they have things they would like to see changed, but they really like the show. And the same with the Facebook page, same with the actual subreddit, which I hope our show's going to be in r/the Orville. But I gotta say, of all the comments I've read, my favorite comment out of all the hundreds now I've read is this one. Can I read it to you?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Dat apt section though.
What?
It's
that
a meme.
app section?
That app section though. He's talking about the rear of the ship, the way it's all fancy looking. So he likes it a lot. And that spawned hundreds of other comments about how they like the ship. So a lot of fans of Star Trek like this show. They have their reservations just like we do, but there is clearly a need here, because even though there's problems with this, people are like, I don't care. Just give me more, please.
Yeah, no, more. It's true. I'm telling you, there's a hunger. They need to give it. We need to see more of this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready. I would have gone straight on to the next show had it given me the opportunity to.
Yeah, same here.
I'm ready.
I actually thought for a minute, because there was some sites out there reviewing the first 3 episodes. I'm like, where are the first 3 episodes at, man?
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a little more of this so we get on the inside, so we can get some more. Give all of our viewers the best information.
All right, so I think that's it, right? I think we're done. Listen, happy Arbor Day. What's up?
Almost. We missed a character. We missed Halston Sage.
We did.
We missed the security officer.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, I actually liked her a lot. I feel like they can't rely too much on her strength, though. They got to dial that back a little bit.
Well, that's the problem. This is the one thing I was going to say is when you fly, basically, we're across the sky. She knocked down the wall, which was cool. She's a kid, basically. That I got to wrap my arm around a little bit. She was very young, but basically she jumped and flew hundreds of feet through the air. And I thought the first thing I was like, it's Supergirl. I mean, you just have her go out front and just knock everybody down. I'm like, I would not worry 1 second. So they need to dial her back a little bit.
They're going to give her a weakness.
Have moments. Yeah, she needs to have moments. But because of that guy with the gun, I would have just said sick him. I don't know why she needed to. You know what I'm saying? When you got somebody OP.
She can't, push him through the back of the ship, can she?
She could have, right? Absolutely. I mean, she tore something off of the wall and threw it across the thing and nailed that guy with a.
I'm pretty sure though, if she pushed that guy to the back of the ship, they all died.
That's just true. No, you're right. There has to be some balance of power. But I just thought that was a little OP. But I'm curious. I want to see more. Yeah. What are you gonna do with it?
They're gonna have to give her a weakness. Maybe she's super strong and all that, but she's super squishy, you can just shoot her, or something like that.
Yeah, something. Yeah, they gotta give her. They need to listen. The next time we're in beta right now, guys, it's totally cool. As we get ready to go forward and we go to 2.0, let's make sure we balance those powers on the OP.
And to be honest, Data from Next Generation was OP.
Yeah, Data was OP, but he did not fly across the air. So I was a little bit. tripping on that one a little bit.
Yeah, only because they couldn't do the graphics, I bet you.
Well, the gravity is like 10 times less, I guess, on her planet. I get that, but doesn't that mean that she'd be walking around the ship like this? You know, I don't know. I'm not sure how they want to figure that out. But anyways, fix that character. Ultimately, core, she's good.
Give her a weakness. Other than that, I liked it, man. I liked. In fact, I gotta say, probably the weakest link of the show. Unfortunately, is probably the captain so far.
Yeah, I mean,
that's so far.
But we didn't learn a lot about the Doctor, so I mean, I don't know exactly what her place is. I don't think Seth did bad. No. Seth has a little bit of a charisma problem. He looks a little dumpy. You know, and he kind of even walks a little dumpy, shoots a little dumpy, you know, so Seth needs to command a little bit better. And maybe because his character, maybe it's part of his characterization, maybe because his character was basically crapped on by his ex-wife, caught his ex-wife in bed with Rob Lowe, which would just destroy anybody.
With anybody.
You know, Rob Lowe was in bed with your wife.
I don't care how big of a stud you are. You caught your wife in bed with Rob Lowe, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah, so maybe I'll give him the credit of the doubt where he's a little bit, you know, but he's going to have to start getting that confidence back and start commanding things a little better. And, you know, it'll happen. It'll happen, I'm sure.
It'll happen naturally. I hope.
It's a pilot, folks. It's a pilot. Give it a chance.
So don't forget, we're trying to get to 400 subs. Super secret, spectacular milestone giveaway. We'll be reviewing the Orville again next Monday, after we see the second episode next Sunday. And we hope that if you're a fan of the show or anything else that we do, you come back. Well, you got something else?
I do. I have one thing. Real quick, I saw it again yesterday. So I was able to go back and see it a second time. Of course, if you're a subscriber, you probably saw that we reviewed it on Friday. If you're not a subscriber and you saw it over the weekend and you're crazy about it like everybody else on the planet is right now, scoot on over and watch our review of it. It's a very good episode, and it's fantastic.
The movie was great. Okay, and our next show will be on Wednesday when we're reviewing Tuesday's AGT. Don't forget, America's Got Talent starts an hour later because of the benefit.
Tomorrow night, yes.
We'll see you guys on Wednesday morning. Thank you so much for watching. Please, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Hit that little alert button to get alerts. We post like 2 or 3 times a week, maybe 4 times a week at the most. And we hope that we'll see you back. Okay? Have a great week.
See you guys on Wednesday.
See you on Wednesday.